It's been more than a month since Fire Emblem Engage launched worldwide, and as of this video, we already have some preliminary data about how well the game is selling. According to Famitsu, Engage sold 144,558 physical copies in Japan in its first 3 days, which is around 1,000 more compared to the 143,130 copies Three Houses sold in that same time frame. The numbers alone might be surprising to see if one had been paying attention to the game's pre-orders, which ComG's charts showed Engage's pre-orders eclipsed Three Houses twice over. And not only that, Amazon even showed the game's pre-orders were figuring quite high in Japan, the US, and France. For those unaware, ComG is a retailer in Japan that has 16 stores spread about the Niigata prefecture in Japan. They generally have a 1% market share and provide daily pre-order numbers for games made for the public. In my past video that covered pre-orders for Engage, you may have remembered that I noted that Engage was set to surpass Three Houses' pre-order numbers well before the game actually released. While ComG doesn't paint the entire picture for predicting how Engage would do, the pre-order contrast between it and Three Houses made it seem like Engage was going to be a massive success. So what's happening now? Well, it could be a case of overrepresentation. Just because ComG reported a big pre-order contrast didn't necessarily mean it was indicative of how Engage would perform as a whole. That being said, this is relevant to physical copies. One reason cited for this huge disparity is that Japanese retailers actually ran out of Engage's copies to sell, moving over 80% of the available stock, estimated to be between 160 to 180,000 units, which, as a fun fact, it's nearly exactly what happened to Three Houses back when it launched in 2019. And considering that based on Nintendo's financial report, 47% of Three Houses' Japanese sales by 2020 were digital, around 280,000 units, everything is pointing out that the game performed quite well at launch, if still below Three Houses physically due to having sold around 30,000 less physical units as of this video. The main catch though is the lack of concrete numbers for any digital sales means it's hard to use the data as proof of anything this soon, more so given the stock issues and the precedent Three Houses' case set. As for how Engage has been selling elsewhere though, sadly we don't really have that much info to work with right now, other than it's allegedly following Japan's example. In the UK, Engage has performed slightly worse than Three Houses, as with its first week, it landed first place but with 31% less copies sold comparatively. As for its second week, it dropped 76% compared to Three Houses' 60% decrease. In France, Engage similarly reached first place in its first week and later dropped to 5th place by the second week. And in both cases, there's no info hinting at an exact amount of copies sold to contrast with. Finally, in the States, Engage figured 5th place as far as sales go during the whole month of January, which is impressive given it launched right at the end of the month's third week. And just like in France, there's no word on the amount of physical copies sold. If one were to reach a conclusion right now, incomplete data shows the game's performing well, yet slightly worse physically compared to Three Houses. But like I said earlier, it's just hard to say whether that's indicative of how the game will sell in the long term. It's honestly kind of annoying that exact sales numbers probably won't be published until May, when the next sales briefing from Nintendo would be. Or I could be completely wrong and they might surprise us, but I don't think so. So the most I can do is speculate. But I was just curious how the game has been doing sales-wise, and this was what we could gather thus far. So at this point, consider the rest of this video my opinion on everything. But to answer the video's title, yes, it has been a success, just not to the point of Three Houses, it seems. The physical stock issue being run out is certainly a factor, because if ComG was 1% to the rest of the 99% puzzle behind physical copies being run out, who actually knows if that overrepresentation really is that, or if Engage can actually beat Three Houses in physical sales too. The fact that Engage started comparing relatively worse than Three Houses on week 2 in every place we could compare it to does make me wonder if it's a sign for the long-term sales. It's obvious that the scale and scope of Three Houses was bigger. It had way more content, stories, characters, lore, and notoriety that all contributed to people talking about it more and more and to keep it relevant. Again, this is my impression only, but I feel like Engage won't have that same staying power as Three Houses. People still argue about Three Houses' story and characters, which while it may be tiresome to see, I make it a slight joke rule to not talk about Fodlan anymore, it still contributes in some way to Three Houses' staying power. While the gameplay is better in Engage, in my opinion, its characters and story are things that I don't think will provide a lasting impression on players, and I wonder if that will contribute to a downward trend in sales. This could be me overvaluing the impact of Fire Emblem's story and characters, as there are some people who think that story doesn't matter at all, but I always find myself recommending certain Fire Emblem games with good, fun stories. In addition to appealing to the nostalgia factor with the old games and the emblems and whatnot, it also heavily marketed to appeal to newer, younger players. It would be really interesting to see if that gambit actually worked. It's entirely possible for Engage to surpass Three Houses in both digital and physical sales, but if it didn't, I do wonder if that will steer their future plans. Fire Emblem Engage's official manga is releasing in Saikyo Jump. According to Shueisha, a good chunk of that magazine's audience are elementary school-aged children, 58.5% being upper elementary school-aged and 28% being lower elementary school-aged. Something else to consider is how many more game sales will be pushed because of the official manga. It's out now and you can read episode 1. I don't read manga or anything, but the manga doing well ought to translate into bolstering game sales. I also wonder if pushing the DLC out this fast was because IS had an idea of how much of a lasting impact Engage would have. That, or they wanted to shotgun DLC out compared to Three Houses because it's been finished for a while. Although in both cases, it's all speculation. So what do you all think? Hit me up with your sales predictions for Engage. We're all sort of making estimations based on what's presented, so let me know what side you're on. Do you think Engage will surpass Three Houses or not? And would you consider Engage a success regardless? And I guess, have you been recommending Engage to your friends? Anyways, I hope you guys liked this short opinion piece / kind of data collection video. I haven't done an editorial type thing in a while, so I hope you guys like it. And if you want to see more opinion pieces and editorials like this, let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Deuces.